Well, welcome to the journey. My name is Kevin Polky, and we have a special guest with us today, Ashton Lockhart. And I've had the privilege of getting to know Ashton over the last 9 months or so, maybe 12 months. And she started at KP. How long ago, Ashton, did you start at KP?
About 7 months ago.
7 months ago. Okay. I
Mhm.
know that we had the interviewing process prior to that, so I couldn't
Mhm.
remember exactly when that was. So Ashton, why don't you kind of just when you have the opportunity to have some fun, what does Ashton do for fun?
I love to go out and do things with my kiddos. I have an 11-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my husband as well. We really enjoy just taking them out and, giving them new experiences. And, we like to surprise them with things that we think, that'll be of interest for them. I love to connect with family and friends, just kind of barbecuing and doing all that cool, fun, connected stuff. Yeah.
Good. Now, Ashton, are you and Will from the Rockford area, or where's
I
your
am born and raised.
born and raised? Okay.
Uh-huh.
And what high school did you go to?
I graduated from Auburn.
Auburn. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
And then how did you and Will meet? How the two of you came together?
Who is Will?
Oh, I'm sorry, your husband. Oh, I'm sorry.
His name is Darren.
Darren. Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
know too many people, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, just a second ago, I thought you had said his name was Will. So I
Oh,
apologize.
okay.
So Darren, how long have you and Darren been together, and how'd you guys meet?
Sure. Well, we met in high school.
Okay.
We connected after, he's a little older than me. So we connected, really started to connect after high school, but we did meet in high school. We always joke that I had the crush first and I saw him first.
Sure, sure. Okay, gotcha. And so he was at Auburn as well, and then you
Uh-huh.
guys got married. How long after high school?
Well, you know what? We were together for about 10 years before we got married. So we've been together a total of 16 years, I think. I hope I got that math right. Married for going on 6.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and so what led you kind of switching over to what you do now regarding being a social worker and counseling? What led you uh, to the field of social work and mental health?
Well, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Still laugh about that. But I took my first pre-law class and it just did not pique my interest at all. And in the process of getting my undergrad, I started to take sociology classes as electives. And I just started asking questions about myself, my upbringing, my community, my family. Why did this family member choose this path? And then why did I choose this path? Although we were raised in the same home by the same people. And so I just kept these questions going. So I ended up getting my undergrad in criminology and law studies, which is the best way I can describe a mix between criminal justice and sociology. So it brought me my work, after I got my undergrad degree, it brought me to a place of work that was all community mental health. And I just sort of got immersed into just helping people. And I realized that if I was going to help people in the way that these questions were leading me to,
Mhm.
that I had to go back and get my graduate degree.
Yeah,
And so that led me to social work.
gotcha. And you did your MSW work where?
Aurora University.
Okay, gotcha. So
Mhm.
that's where both my son Caleb and my daughter
Okay.
Sierra. That's where he graduated from there, and that's where she's in. She's just finishing up now. This summer she'll be
Okay.
finishing up from there.
I loved it. Actually started my graduate degree program at the U of I. There's a Rockford cohort that they would do every year. And they were trying to make some program changes where our cohort wouldn't have to drive to Urbana. And it just didn't work out that way. And at the time I was working in the courts and there was no way I could take that much time off. So it led me to Aurora. And in hindsight, I wish I'd started there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that actually program you're referring to is the program I did,
Oh,
and
okay.
I started that program in '92, and
Mhm.
because I went school social worker. It was a 3-year program,
Okay.
and yeah, I had to commute down there for. one, well, 3 semesters I had to commute down there. So yeah,
Wow.
that was yeah, it was a haul. And and
Yeah.
and then Delinda, who is my sister-in-law, she went through that program because there wasn't that many options at that time. And then they had narrowed it down to, when I was there, I had to be there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then when she was there, they did everything in one day. And so they've continually seemed to try to work at
Mm,
condensing that program to make it more user friendly for
yeah.
people who are commuting. Um, so if you go back to that, you said there was a couple questions that
Mm,
you started becoming curious about, and
hmm.
and I think that that idea of us being curious
Yeah.
about why does one person make some choices and go one way, and another person, same background, same people
Hmm.
involved with their life, they choose another. And not that that one's good or bad or any
Right.
of that aspect,
Right.
but I think that is why we get involved with counseling,
Absolutely.
because of that curiosity. Any reflecting on your own story and those questions, any thoughts about why you may have, why now, after all this time looking back on it, going, okay, why you may have gone one way, and then someone else with the same upbringing, same parents, may have chosen something completely different.
Sure. I think it had a lot to do with who we identified as people, right? I was always the smart one, the one who helped, the one who was dependable. So I put myself in that role, right? And it just sort of inherently led to things that helped me to be successful in different ways. And then I think about other people in my community and even in my family. If we assign them the role of the troubled kid, the one who has problems, and then their behavior will follow. Um, yeah, I think that's probably the gist of what I got from those questions.
Sure, sure. And I'm drawing a blank at the moment because there's some theory, right, that the social scientists
Don't
had
ask me.
that they had come up with, that about that social interaction that then reinforces, like you said, that label, or that position people are placed in. And like in your case, similar to myself, it was reinforced on a regular basis by
Hmm.
by peers, by family members, by teachers and coaches. That was reinforced on a regular basis that this is the role that Kevin's supposed to do. And of
Right.
course, the more you do it, the more you become better at it,
Hmm.
and you continue to want to get that reinforcement, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really am grateful for it leading me to social work as a career, because as these questions that, I mean, you start asking and then it takes you down a rabbit hole, right? So you have to ask more and more questions. And as I really started to dive into social work as a profession, I started picking apart myself, and I would see certain things and I'd say, oh, I do that, that's a problem. Oh, that's anxiety, right? And I said, man, there's a lot to know here about myself, about the world, about other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree 100%, because how I first got into psychology and counseling had well, not even counseling, just the psychology piece of it had more to do with sports, and
Mm,
trying to understand how to. I realized that in playing sports, that my greatest asset or tool or weapon or whatever you want to call it was my ability to control my thinking and control,
mm,
um, discipline myself to practice or whatever it might have been.
right.
It was only when that career ended did I, as I was looking at trying to recreate myself,
Mm,
then going into the actually helping profession started unfolding, and
uh-huh.
similar to those questions that you had as well. Ashton, as you think about, you've been at KP now for 7 months, and then
Mhm,
prior to that, you were working specifically with trauma clients and
mhm,
in that area. What would be some of the things that you, going along that theme that you said, that you've learned about yourself as
mm,
that you have infused yourself into this world of social work and the helping profession?
Yeah, I think the first thing I learned about myself is that I don't know everything. And it really helps me to come in. If I come in those spaces with that open mind, and I really take that everywhere with me. I want to learn from the world and from other people. And it's really helped me not only in my career, but in my life as a parent, as a wife, as a daughter, helping my mom through some difficult things, is really just to do away with this idea that I know.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. That reminds me, it just happened to be this weekend. I was talking with Sierra, who's doing her internship at KP, and then she's also, working at an elementary school. And I was asking her about what is it about this phase of her internship that that she's really mm, that she's really learned to take away that she maybe wasn't at the other internships. And
Mhm,
she said something to the like about being able to ask good questions,
mhm,
and that she guess she didn't really fully grasp or realize that it's about asking questions instead of us as counselors having the answers. It's more
yeah,
about being able to ask those questions. But
yeah.
well, as you think about, the different clients that you've worked with, how
Mhm.
does that kind of stand out for you as well?
I think what stands out to me the most is working with perpetrators of family violence.
Mm,
And you have to know, if you want to go in working with a population as that presents with as many challenges as that, you have to go in asking questions, and they have to be questions that help both you understand them and help them understand themselves.
mhm.
If you go in assuming these are horrible people and I know why you use violence, you don't ever get the answers you need, and the change process simply doesn't occur.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're 100% right, because it's pretty uh, it's pretty presumptuous of us to think that we would know
Mhm.
a person based upon what a
A
that we would know,
behavior.
yeah, based upon a behavior or based upon some report that we've gotten,
Right.
or something like that. And even this paper tells us what they've done, that doesn't tell us at all who they are,
Absolutely.
and let alone, helping them and helping us to understand and discover what may have been some of the whys behind
Mhm.
some of the choices or some of the lifestyles that we're living.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that idea of bringing people along, I know for me that was the most important along my own journey of
Mm,
self-discovery, was having guides bring me along. And really, I don't recall many times people giving me answers as much
mhm.
as, asking me questions for me to go deeper into it, and then holding space for me to look at that, you
Oh,
know
yeah.
and then of course, when I was trying to avoid something, then they just asked more questions.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, and that really is what we're speaking of, right? It's helping you bring yourself to a place of awareness. Often we don't even realize we're using that avoidance, but the person who's talking to us, who's asking us those questions, they know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So in the midst of all these things, I mean, being a wife, being a mom, being
Mhm.
involved with different aspects of stuff that you do in the community, which I definitely want you to touch base on too. But what does Ashton do for Ashton? What do you do to replenish yourself, to be restored?
Yeah, the first thing is recognizing when I need a break. When Darren watches this, he'll laugh at this because I often have a really hard time knowing when I need a break, just sort of challenging those thoughts that tell me I need to keep going and do one more thing. So I have to know when a break is needed. The second thing I realized just recently in the last couple of years, as I've found some success in my weight loss journey, finally, after all these years, is that physical activity is a requirement for
Mm,
me.
okay.
Even if I'm not on top of my game with eating healthy and, doing all these other things, I have to have some kind of physical activity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been a huge encourager and supporter of the being able to utilize physical activity to
Yeah,
prepare us to be able to have that emotional and mental health. They very much, you know, work together.
absolutely.
So let me ask you, Ashton, as you've come to KP and made a change in your career with that way, that aspect of it, what things are you doing in the community outside of working at KP? But what other things are you doing in the community? What are some things that you are looking forward to want to be able to do more of? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
I think the biggest thing, especially for the Rockford community, is putting a young Black face and attaching it to mental health treatment. And that's really been my goal over the past 6 months, and really connecting and networking and just kind of showing up in different community events to let people know, one, to normalize, right, mental health treatment, and to try and pick away at some of that stigma that's attached to us, or to that, especially in the Black community. But also to let people know that there are resources out there and people who understand their experience in a different way. So I've had a really good time just kind of connecting and networking, and presenting at different events at the YMCA and through the Kendall Sherman Foundation. That's an event that's coming up next month that will take place at, I'm not sure of the park, but I know it's where the Young at Heart Festival normally takes place. Um, so that's next month, June 18th, and different things like that. And so something that I actually just got started, this is brand new, and I haven't mentioned this to anyone, is that I've officially established a small business that I'm calling CITIED, which stands for Creating Initiative Through Interaction, Education, and Development. And so I'm really, excited about that and molding that into kind of my baby and doing some of the stuff that I just talked about, but being able to steer it in my own direction.
Sure, sure. And I think those, yeah, I think it's one, when we get that nudge or get that, that thought that comes and it doesn't go away, right? Because
Mhm.
we're always gonna have thoughts, right? And we're always gonna have ideas about doing something. But if it keeps resurfacing and it resurfaces in different ways, we know that that probably is something that we should be paying attention to and go and follow that.
Yeah.
And I know for me that was in the early 90s when I was in the
Mhm.
process of recreating myself. That was where I got interested in doing men's work, and specifically similar to what you were just talking about regarding breaking the stigma around seeking help in the Black community.
Mhm.
A lot of the same type of for different reasons, but similar type of stigma around men asking for help or reaching out
Mhm.
and asking for help. And so um, that was kind of my take on it. Was similar to, if I could just normalize it and talk
Mhm.
about it and just have normal conversations about it, that that maybe more men would be willing to
Mhm.
seek some type of assistance.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer in that, like you said, when you get that nudge, all you have to do is say yes, and the pieces sort of fall into place. So I don't think it's an accident at all that I ended up at KP and connected with you at the time, that it happened, because all of these things are happening, and they're sort of coming together in a way that I think has been needed for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. And like you said, some of it, some of it of the timing of it, and then your energy, as probably Darren points out to you, being being able to channel that and then not
Mhm.
get distracted by all the noise and different
Yeah.
things, because there's always going to be other things that are going to distract us. But
Oh, yeah.
how do we stay focused on on the right things to say yes to, so that we have to say no to the right things so we can say yes to the right things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So Ashton, as we get ready to wrap up, what would, if there was anything that you wanted to share with the audience, well, either, your own self-care, or what you're doing now in the community, or what you want to be doing more of,
Mm.
anything in particular would you want to share with the audience?
I would say to trust yourself and listen to yourself, and this is not just about, the things that we're talking about that I or you are doing in the community, but listen to yourself, your inner awareness is going to guide you in the right direction. It's going to tell you when you need help. It's going to tell you when you need to, make decisions, and just kind of trust yourself with that. That's something that I'm still learning. And as I'm learning it and kind of putting it into practice, I'm starting to see the benefits of that.
Yeah, and I think, and probably the part that I would add to that is like the initiative that you're talking about doing with this new initiative that you're doing.
Mhm.
That is a life-giving
Yeah.
initiative, right? So it's about moving forward. It's a thing that you have stirring within you to help other people, to give life or give energy to other people, and make that connection. And I think anytime we have that, and I think kind of
Mhm.
like what we were saying earlier about, sometimes we have seeds planted in us, but they come
Mm.
from bad labels. They come
Mm.
from someone else's story, and they put it on you. And
Mm.
we may be young, and we take that on, but
Yeah.
that's something that's life taking, right?
Hmm.
The fact that Ashton has to push and has to push and not take a break, that
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's an old script. That's not life giving,
Right.
right? And so 100%, I believe we have to listen to that intuition and listen to that small voice, and then we have to ask ourselves, is it a life
Mm.
giving, or is
Mm.
it life taking?
I
Because
like that.
because if it's life giving, then it's all those things that you said. The doors are going to start opening, and we just have to walk through them. If it's life
Yeah.
taking, we're going to be distracted, and we're just going to
Right.
have a bunch of energy up.
Right. Oh yeah, I like that. I'm gonna take that.
Right? Well, someone gave it to me, so you can take
All right.
it.
Cool. Cool.
So Ashton, thank you so much. I mean, I definitely am grateful for you to be part of KP, and part of my life, and being able to advance some of the work that we're doing in our aspect of trying to influence and make a difference, and choosing to make a difference in our community. And then definitely want to be able to support you any way I can with the different things that you want to do in the community as well.
I thank you for having me and receiving me.
Yeah, right. Well, Ashton, again, thank you for being with us. And if someone wanted to reach out to you, and want to know more about what you're doing, or just be in contact, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me would probably be through email at a lockhart at kpcounseling.com. I also am Ash Unlocked on social media. So you'll find a lot of those little small mental health points that I speak about in general. So I just kind of, turn those into shortened, sort of easy to digest things and put them out there on social media as well. So that's Ash Unlocked.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Ashton. And as always, if there is something that Ashton spoke about today, or something that was shared today, please share that, and forward that on to someone else, because we never know where someone may need just a little bit of a seed of hope to
Hmm.
help them wherever they may be. As always, thank you for being with us, and I look forward to being with you next week.